I like your colors. Thanks.
This is a prototype of what I'm going to wear for our performance.
Yeah.
I think it's, this is awkward.
Oh, is either of you know Niles Berman from Cincinnati? Oh. Dr. Scott Joseph, Dr. Trish Joseph.
How long have you been?
23 years.
Yes, I did not go to high school there. You didn't go to Walnut Hills?
No.
My wife and I disappeared.
I played in Georgia. And so I saw her this Cincinnati. And they said, she says to me, who do you know?
It's a projector. Camera projector.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It is time to be with one another in this beautiful community.
As always, I like to find a moment to soften our entry into Shabbat, not need words right away. We encountered this melody for the first time, at least in this community, I think, last week. So if you were with us, it might be familiar. And if not, maybe you've heard it in another place. We'll kind of live with it for a moment and meet it again later on. Do-do-do, do-do-do-do. Now we're going to really learn that together. Do 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 do. Try that together. Do 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 la la la, ya la la la, ya la la la. Try that with me. Ya la la la, ya la la la, ya la la la. Ya la la la. Ya la la la, ya la la la. Try that together. Ya la la la, ya la la la, ya la la la.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. We hope that you have a prayer book tonight. The Gates, sorry, not Gates. I was in a different generation, I guess. Mishkan Tefillah. Hope you all have Mishkan Tefillah. And that you have a program for tonight. There's one particular prayer here that we'll be encountering later on during the service. And for those online, welcome, Shabbat Shalom. There's a link in the video description taking you to a flipbook version of Mishkan Tefillah, and also to a link that brings you to the program so you can have the same information as the folks here in our sanctuary tonight. I want to invite everyone to turn to page 662 in the prayer book. The month of Elul ends, of course, with the beginning of the new year on Sunday evening. But during the month of Elul, we always, of course, yearn for good things to happen. We place our trust in God. We place our trust in the community around us. And so on page 662 at the top, we're offering Achal Sha'alti, which is just our way of saying what would be the most wonderful thing that we could imagine happening to us in our lives. At the end of a busy year, what could be the one thing or among the things that we could be hoping for? And that is to indeed enjoy God's merit, enjoy God's protection. By extension, enjoy the protection and the merit of this community. Page 662.
Feeling connection to that divine presence, to that presence beyond ourselves. Achat sha'alti me'et Adonai ota avakesh. Achat sha'alti me'et Adonai ota avakesh. Shivti b'veit Adonai kol yemei chayai. לחזות בנועם בנועם אדוני ולבקר בהיכלו. לחזות בנועם בנועם אדוני ולבקר בהיכלו. אחת שאלתי מאת אדוני אותה אבקש. אחת שאלתי מאת אדוני אותה אבקש. שבתי בבית אדוני כל ימי חיי. לחזות בנועם בנועם אדוני ולבקר בהיכלו. לחזות בנועם בנועם אדוני ולבקר בהיכלו.
Remember the last sunset that you saw. Think about it. Think about the last moment of awe that you felt about something. Think about the last time that your heart went out to one other person and you felt not only what they felt, you not only empathized with them, but you took them into your heart and maybe you put your arms figuratively or maybe even literally around them and you embraced them. As the year of 5782 comes to a close in a few days, we remember and we express gratitude. Gratitude for the year, but also gratitude for the fact that we are here and able to remember that year that is just about to close. We might have lost companions along the way. We might have had incredible successes during the year gone by. We might have taken much of it for granted. Yet we gather here on this Shabbat and in the coming days to remember our harrowing year, our excellent year, our confusing year. And we pledge to ourselves, and we hope to ourselves that the year ahead will be better. May God indeed be with us on this journey so that we can make the year to come a much better year than the year gone by. We'd like to invite you to turn to page 120 in Mishkan Tefillah as we offer thanks to God for light. because with light, we see the world in different ways. With light, we envision friendships anew. We envision so much that is different in the world. And we thank God for that vision that enables us to feel the light and see the light. Sometimes you cannot see the light exactly. We thank God for being able to take this light and create the world anew with it. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat Blessed are you who commands us to kindle the lights of Shabbat.
For a moment, we turn ahead in the prayer book to page 337. 337. And as a community, we offer this prayer together as we help to inaugurate our Shabbat here. We read together at the top of the page. Prayer is not purely an act. All things pray, and all things pour forth their souls. The heavens pray, the earth prays, every creature and every living thing. In all life there is longing. Creation is itself but a longing, a kind of prayer to the Almighty. What are the clouds, the rising and the setting of the sun, the soft radiance of the moon and the gentleness of night? What are the flashes of the human mind and the storms of the human heart? They are all prayers, the wordless outpouring of boundless longing for God. Kabbalat Shabbat, we are so thankful for this day of rest, and we receive it here in our community with songs and psalms of praise. On page 130, we go back now to the regular cycle of the prayer book. We offer a number of songs for Kabbalat Shabbat. We begin with L'chu Niranana, page 130.
And this melody that I wrote was inspired by the music of the Jewish community of Uganda, the Abba Yudaya community. L'chu niranana Adonai, nariya letzur yishenu, nekadma fanav betoda, mizmirot nariya lo. L'chu niranana Adonai, nariya letzur yishenu, nekadma fanav betoda, mizmirot nariya lo. L'chu niranana Adonai, nariya letzur yishenu, nekadma fanav betoda, mizmirot nariya lo. L'chu niranana Adonai, nariya letzur yishenu, nekadma fanav betoda, mizmirot nariya lo. Ki el gadol Adonai, umelech gadol al kol Elohim, asher biyado mechkerei aretz v'toafot harim lo. L'chu niranana Adonai, nariya letzur yishenu, nekadma fanav betoda, mizmirot nariya lo. L'chu niranana Adonai, nariya letzur yishenu, nekadma fanav betoda, mizmirot nariya lo. Ki el gadol Adonai, umelech gadol al kol Elohim, asher biyado mechkerei aretz v'toafot harim lo. Asher lo hayam vehu atzahu, מייבשת ידיו יצרו. לכו נרננה לאדוני, נריע לצור אישנו, נתנה פניו בתודה, בזמירות נריע לו. לכו נרננה לאדוני, נריע לצור אישנו, נתנה פניו בתודה, בזמירות נריע לו. נתנה פניו בתודה, בזמירות נריע לו. נקדמה פניו בתודה, בזמירות נריע לו.
We welcome Shabbat now with Lechat Dodi on page 138. Imagining the Shabbat is now arriving, and we grace the Shabbat with our arms and with our intentions. And we'll be offering verses 1, 2, 5, and 9 tonight. And of course, on the verse 9, we rise and face the door as we symbolically greet Shabbat into our presence. Page 138.
שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ולתפארת ולתהילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, תהי מקור הברכה. מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי. אורי אורי, שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. בואי ושלום, עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה. תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
on page 140, Tov Lehodot, Psalm 92, a psalm of gratitude, a psalm for this Shabbat day, and we thank God for all the week's activities that are over and all the new activities that will begin in the coming week.
מזמור שיר ליום השבת. טוב להודות לאדוני. טוב להודות לאדוני. ולזמר לשמך עליון. טוב להודות לאדוני. טוב להודות לאדוני. טוב להודות לאדוני. ולזמר לשמך עליון. טוב להודות לאדוני. להגיד בבוקר חסדך. להגיד בבוקר חסדך. ואמונתך בלילות, ואמונתך בלילות. טוב להודות לאדוני. להגיד בבוקר חסדך. להגיד בבוקר חסדך. ואמונתך בלילות, ואמונתך בלילות. טוב להודות לאדוני.
When the rabbis created the prayer book, they envisioned God as being an artist. And at this moment in the week, they saw or they envisioned God as bringing together light and darkness and mixing them together and creating evening. Well, we know that the evening is going to shift quickly into dark, and the darkness will consume us, but tomorrow morning the light will take over. But the rabbis envisioned God as mixing together all of these beautiful things and coming out with a gorgeous night, with stars and moon and people to populate that world. If we think about it in these terms or in our terms today, we think about our creations in the world, our acts in the world that make the world beautiful. And whether it is the friendships we make or the work that we do or the memories we share and the memories we possess, all of those are our creations that we have given the world, and we thank God. We thank one another for all the beauty that we can bring into the world. That's the partnership that we have, the partnership among one another, and for those who are sincere believers, even the partnership with God, who actively takes our thoughts and our words and our actions and mixes it all together. So that gratitude is something that we can feel toward God, toward one another, toward the world. We continue now with Baruch on page 146, bringing forth that notion of gratitude for that God and for creation.
And we will encounter that melody from before.
We invite you to rise.
Do 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 את אדוני המבורך. ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם. את יי לי 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 יי לי 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 יי לי 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 לי
On page 149, we continue together at the top of the page. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows.
El Chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed, baruch atah Adonai, hamari v'aravim.
Amen. On page 150 at the top.
Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, otanu limadeta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shokbeinu, uvkumeinu nasiach bechukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, uv'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed, ki hem chayeinu, ve'orech yameinu, Uvahem nege yomam v'layla, nege yomam v'layla. Be'ahavatcha al tasir, mimenu le'olamim, baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. Ohev amo Yisrael.
152.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Please be seated. And we continue on at the top of 154.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha ve'hayu ha'devarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
I'm reading on page 156. All this we hold to be true and trustworthy for us. You alone are our God, and we are Israel, your people. You are our sovereign and Savior who delivers us from oppressors' hands and saves us from tyrants' fists. You work wonders without number, marvels beyond count. You give us life and steady our footsteps. You performed miracles for us before Pharaoh, signs and wonders in the land of the Egyptians. You led your people Israel out from their midst to freedom for all time. Please join me. When your children witnessed your dominance, they praised your name in gratitude, and they accepted your sovereignty. Moses, Miriam, and all Israel sang to you together, lifting their voices joyously. Page 158.
Ya bye bye bim bim bam, ya bye bye bim bam, ya bye bye bim bim bam, ya bye bye bim bam. Ay da 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 da, ya bye bye bim bam. Ay da 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 da, ya bye bye bim bam. Mi kamocha bailim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar bakodesh. Nora tehilot osefele, Nora tehilot osefele. Malechotecha ra'u banecha, Bokei hayam lifnei Moshe uMiriam. Zeli anu ve'amru, Adonai imlo le'olam va'ed. Ya bye bye bim bim bam, ya bye bye bim bam, ya bye bye bim bim bam, ya bye bye bim bam. Ay da 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 da, ya bye bye bim bam. Ay da 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 da, ya bye bye bim bam. V'ne'emar ki fada Adonai et Yaakov, ug'alo miyad chazak mimenu. Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael.
Amen. On page 160, we offer Hashkivenu, this prayer seeking comfort at nighttime.
Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Ushmor tzeiteinu uvoeinu lechaim u'shalom me'ata ve'ad olam. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim.
Rabbi Levi Yitzchak of Berdichev once said that could be a person who hears the shofar on Rosh Hashanah, and the sound of that shofar remains with you throughout the 10 days of repentance. And you could be someone who hears the echo of the shofar at Mount Sinai, and that stays with you your entire life. Rabbi Levi implies the question to each of us, what kind of person are we? How long will we heed the call of the shofar that brings us to good behaviors, that bring us to friendships, that brings us to solidify relationships and end the divides that really split our society? We ask our hearts to be in the right place. We ask our intentions to direct us toward good pathways. And we ask that one another be with us by our side as we help to make this world better.
Ushmor tzeiteinu uvoeinu lechaim u'shalom me'ata ve'ad olam. Baruch atah Adonai Haporei Sukkot Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kol Amo Yisrael Ve'al Yerushalayim.
We're about to begin Tefillah, which will start on page 164. And before we begin the Tefillah, I would want to acknowledge probably that each of us has in our hearts the desire to change the world for the better in one small way. Everyone wants their deeds to count for something, ultimately. And one of the ways that we do that is to ensure that we are caring about the world and caring about other people. It was Elie Wiesel who once said the opposite of love is not hate, it is indifference. The opposite of art is not ugliness, it is indifference. The opposite of faith is not heresy, it is indifference. And the opposite of life is not death, it is indifference. The more we touch other people, the more we are truly concerned and show that concern day to day. The less indifferent we are, the more caring we become. May this be something for us to carry into the year ahead. Tefillah begins on page 164. We invite you to rise.
Adonai, Sfatai tiftach, ufi yagid tehillatcha. Adonai, Sfatai tiftach, ufi yagid tehillatcha. Adonai, Sfatai tiftach, Yagi tehillatcha. Adonai, Sfatai tiftach, ufi yagi tehillatcha. Do-do-do, do-do-do-do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do-do-do.
Page 166.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu ve'imoteinu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak ve'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor ve'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasarim Tovim Ve'Konei HaKol Ve'Zocher Chasdei Avot ve'Imahot U'Mevi Geula Livnei V'neihem Leman Shemo Be'ahava Melech Ozer u'Moshiach u'Magen. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, ve'ezrat Sarah.
168.
Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechaye hakol atah Rav lehoshia, Morid hatal, Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofei cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato lishenei afar, Micha mocha bal gevurot, Umido melach, Melech meimit umechaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman ata lehachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechaye hakol.
Amen. Page 170.
Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kdoshim b'chol yom yehalelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh.
Amen. We continue the tefillah with the prayers of our hearts, and eventually we'll meet one another on page 180. You may stand or you may sit as you desire.
You don't need any words at the moment unless you'd like to follow along. There are some words in the program, but you're also welcome to just take this moment in, and then we'll be joining with a prayer for peace on page 180. Words inspired from this week's parasha. Lo vashamayim, lo vashamayim, lo vashamayim hi. Lo vashamayim, ki karov lachem meod. Lo vashamayim, lo vashamayim, lo vashamayim hi. Lo vashamayim, ki karov lachem meod. In the time of our asking, questions beyond words. In the time of our singing, songs that won't be heard. It is not beyond the sea. It is not a world apart. It is in your mouth. It is in your heart. Lo vashamayim, lo vashamayim, lo vashamayim hi. Lo vashamayim ki karov lachem meod. Lo vashamayim, lo vashamayim, lo vashamayim hi. Lo vashamayim ki karov lachem meod. In a time of thanksgiving, when blessings flow like rain. In a time of our healing, in a time where hope remains. It is not beyond the sea, it is not a world apart. It is in your mouth, it is in your heart. Lo vashamayim, lo vashamayim, lo vashamayim hi. Lo vashamayim ki karov lachem meod. Lo vashamayim, lo vashamayim, lo vashamayim hi. Lo vashamayim ki karov lachem meod. Ose shalom bimromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. Ose shalom bimromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. Ve'imeru. Amen.
In this week's parashah, there is, of course, wonderful material for us to learn from. Much of this week's parashah we'll be offering on Yom Kippur morning as well, because that is the parashah that we offer for that day in the morning here. But it's the 29th and 30th chapters of Deuteronomy. And the verses there say, among other things, Uvacharta b'chayim leman tichyeh, atav v'zarecha, that you should choose life. You have to choose life. And that's a suggestion that all of life and all that we do are active, affirmative, assertive choices. There are people who let everything happen to them. And I think the rabbis would say sometimes that's what happens. Sometimes things happen to us. But there is also this notion that we can choose. I want to tell a story that someone told me, and I'm going to offer it to you as well. This story is told to me by a Dr. Raphael Medoff. I don't know if you know that name. He is the director of something called the David S. Wyman Institute for Holocaust Studies in Washington. And this is an institute that focuses on the abandonment of Europe's Jews during the Nazi era, and as well as the efforts to promote rescue and the moral and historical lessons that we all learn from all of that. He tells this remarkable tale of a 1935 protest of the German government that took place at a New York City pier. If you watched this week, or last week rather, the Ken Burns story on PBS about the U.S. and the Holocaust, they reference this incident. And he goes into a few more details. So maybe some of you know some of the story, and I've learned even more of the story. Here in this congregation, we know the name FDR, I know Franklin Roosevelt, and there are varying opinions about him and how he did or did not do as he might have for the Jews and for other refugees in those pre-World War II years and during World War II. But there's another name I'd like to share with you tonight as well, and that is the name of William Bailey. Again, that's a name you may not know, but we should, and here's why. It was the evening of July 26, 1935, and this German ocean liner, the SS Bremen, had pulled into New York Harbor, proudly flying the colors of Germany, but also carrying along the soon-to-be adopted as the national flag of that country, the swastika, the notorious crooked cross, black on a white field, and then on a red background. Well, that evening, as the crew of the ship and its passengers enjoyed a beautiful party on board, more than 1,000 protesters lined the docks around the ship. Well, trouble was brewing. The New York City Police Department tried to contact the security officer of the ship to tell that person that some people had actually snuck aboard the ship dressed in evening clothes, but they were actually protesters. Now, one of the protesters, 25-year-old William Bailey, who was a second-generation Irish-American, he climbed upon the hull of the ship, climbed down to where this swastika flag was flying, tore the swastika flag off the boat, and hurled it into the water. So Bailey and 5 other people were arrested. Now, the six defendants appeared before a New York City magistrate on September 6th. So that's about 5 or 6 weeks after this event. And since Bailey and the others had been caught red-handed, everyone thought that they would indeed be convicted. And in fact, one person was convicted. Why? As you heard Ken Burns' story, that one of them had brass knuckles, and that was a weapon that I guess was very frowned upon. But Judge Brodsky dismissed the majority of the charges on the grounds that tearing down the Nazi flag was a justifiable act. And he wrote this in his ruling. He wrote, the SS Bremen was guilty. The ship had engaged in, quote, gratuitously brazen flaunting of an emblem which symbolizes all that is antithetical to American ideals. He said that Hitler's ship was the equivalent of a pirate ship with a black flag of piracy proudly flying aloft. Of course, you can imagine the German press was furious, right? Der Angriff, a newspaper founded by propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels, called Judge Brodsky, quote, an Eastern Jew who promoted Jewish communistic agitation. A Berlin newspaper, Börsen Zeitung, pardon my German, I never took German, but I think it's pronounced Börsen Zeitung, accused Brodsky of, quote, incomparable impudence and brazen-faced provocation of the honor of the German people. The Deutsche Allgemeine Zeitung blasted Brodsky's ruling as, quote, an unheard of insult to Germany. And the German ambassador to the United States, whose name was Hans Luther, demanded an official U.S. government apology. And then the Secretary of State Cordell Hull sent the Hitler regime a note expressing, quote, regret at Judge Brodsky's ruling. Now, many American Jews, including a firebrand rabbi at the time, Rabbi Stephen S. Wise, were shocked and dismayed that the Roosevelt administration sent this deferential message. Because when Rosh Hashanah came about 3 weeks later, then he rose to the bima and he lambasted FDR and FDR's policies toward the Nazis. Wise told his congregation that the horror of the Nazis' recent adoption of anti-Jewish laws, quote, was made more full of horror by the act of our government in apologizing with exaggerated profuseness and abjectness to the Nazi regime for a word of disrespect or contempt of that regime, uttered in the course of a judicial decision. He went on to write, or to say, rather, such apology would have come more fitly if our government had ever uttered even one brave word in condemnation of the program and the practices of the Nazi regime. And it seems that Weiss was referring to the fact that FDR was very quiet about criticizing the Nazi regime. And even before worship tonight, we were having some discussions as to why that may have been. And one can only presume and guess, or maybe there are people who might be more certain, historians certainly wiser than I, who would be able to tell us why that was. However, Secretary Hull had to apologize again a few years later because New York City Mayor Fiorello LaGuardia called Hitler once a fanatic, quote, a fanatic who is threatening the peace of the world. And that's also why President Roosevelt compelled Interior Secretary Harold Ickes to remove critical references to Hitler and Nazism from several of Ickes' speeches in the 1930s. So all of that aside, and I really commend this series to you. I've only watched one episode, and I can't wait to watch the other two. But again, along with the theme of Uvacharta b'chayim, choosing life, affirmatively choosing to do something, it makes me think of the following questions: that what in our day would move any of us to stand up loudly and to protest the anti-Semitism and the white Christian nationalism that threaten to divide our country today and threaten us Jews? How can we find allies among our non-Jewish friends, in groups, in organizations, in friendship circles that we travel in? How can we engender people to go along with us? You know, people say this is not 1938, and it's not. But people feel that there are warning signs that we should be paying attention to. People feel that the government is not going in that direction. The Nazi government did. So there's the big divide. There's the big difference. But a popular sentiment is very tough in this country against Jews, against minorities, against people of color, against gay and lesbian and transgender people, against people who are different just because they are different. And what does it mean for any of us in the year to come to choose action affirmatively, to be engaged against those forces who are against the freedoms that we have come to know and love? To me, the challenge is, what will each of us do in the year to come to build stronger relationships between and among Americans so that we can again regain the United States of America that we think we are living in. Shabbat Shalom. We'd like to invite the community to turn to page 371 in the prayer book. 371. We offer now prayers of healing and wholeness to people whose lives are broken by illness, to families who are facing terminal illness within them, places where wholeness will come one day, we hope, and we hope that people will learn how to live with their loss and live with their hurt. We have 75 to 80 people on our healing list here at Temple Beth El. I won't go through all those names, but if people here tonight have a name that they would like to think of, I invite you to think of that person in your heart and think of your prayers going out to that person. We don't know God's ways in healing, but we do know that when a community such as this one, or an individual such as you, when you pray, when a community prays on behalf of someone who is ill, that raises their spirit and allows them to work on healing as best as they can given their situation. If there is someone whom you would like to name aloud, we now invite you to add names to our list of people whom we're thinking about as people who need healing and wholeness. Others we should be thinking about? Dear God, aloud and in our hearts, we name those facing illness and pain. We join our prayers to the prayers of all who love them. At the middle of page 371.
Mi sheberach avotenu mikor habracha leimotenu source of strength, who bless the ones before us. Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
We invite you to turn to page 123, where we continue with the Kiddush for this Erev Shabbat. Page 123.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu. Zikaron le'maaseh v'reishit, ki hu yom tehila lemikra'ei kodesh, zecher litziat mitzrayim. Kivanu v'charta, ve'otanu kidashta, mikol העמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת לחיים.
Our worship continues now on page 586. We invite you to rise for Aleinu, page 586.
Aleinu לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד ארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינת עוזו בגובהי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Please be seated. We continue together on 589. Let the time not be distant, O God, when all shall turn to you in love, when corruption and evil shall give way to integrity and goodness, when superstition shall no longer enslave the mind, nor idolatry blind the eye. O may all created in your image become one in spirit and one in friendship, forever united in your service. Then shall your realm be established on earth, and the word of your prophet fulfilled. Adonai will reign forever and ever. On page 591.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד Ushemo, Ushemo, Ushemo Echad.
Zecher Tzadik Livracha, may the memory of the righteous be a blessing. On page 593, I offer this meditation before we remember those who inspired our lives. The light of life is a finite flame. Like the Shabbat candles, life is kindled, it burns, it glows, it is radiant with warmth and beauty, but soon it fades. Its substance is consumed, and it is no more. In light we see, in light we are seen. The flames dance, and our life burns down and gutters. There is an end to the flames. We see no more and are no more seen. Yet we do not despair, for we are more than a memory, slowly fading into the darkness. With our lives, we give life. Something of us can never die. We move in the eternal cycle of darkness and death, of light and life. At this tender moment, we recall those who gave us life, those who meant so much to us, those who buoyed us during times of difficulty, and those whose memories are indeed a blessing to humanity. Especially, we remember people who died in our community or connected to our community in the last 30 days, and we remember those whose Yartzeit occur at this time. If you are present tonight in mourning or observing a Yartzeit, we invite you to rise as the name of your loved one is recited. These are the recent deaths connected to our community members or members of our community. Tonight we remember June Gronick, stepmother of Nan Youngerman, step-grandmother of Rebecca Youngerman. Kenneth W. Riggs, husband of Joan Riggs. Susan Wilson, cousin of Nicole Jarr. Jane D. Johnson, grandmother of David Hollander. And these are the Yartzeiten that we observe at this time in continuing dedication to their memory. Bernice Abramovitz, Beverly N. Berman, Doris Bookstaff, Janet Brown, Bill Chudikoff, Jerome H. Cole, Nina Dyer, Eva Ellenbogen, Arthur Epstein, Milton Feig, Marvin Feldman, Gordon Goldberg, Wayne Johnson, Serena Kaplan, Robert Klein, Michael Leonard Krasnick, Hyman Landweber, Riva Lazarov, Sarah Lederer, Ruth Levin Levy, Muriel Lipman, Jacob Marks, Elsie Mautner, Leonard M. Nemshoff, Belle Radwin, Tom Rutter, Pauline Schreck, William Schwartz, David Schwartz, Sam Schwid, Catherine Siniko, Russell P. Siniko, Melvin Stein, Francis Steinberg, Irvin Troy, Wilma Verger, Lawrence H. Volk, Wolfgang Wasserman, James Waxenberg, Ethel Waxman, Gussie Wiener. There also may be members of this worship community here tonight who are remembering loved ones whose names didn't appear on our Kaddish list. And if you would like to add your loved one's name to this list tonight, we now invite you to add loved ones here. Zichronam livracha, may all of their memories be blessings in our hearts and the hearts and minds of all those who knew and loved them. Testifying to the faith that binds the generations of humanity together, now we invite the community to turn to page 598, and as one we rise and offer the mourner's Kaddish in support of those who are mourning and remembering on this night, and in support of all of us whose hearts are buoyed and lifted by those who gave us memories. On page 598, Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'vyomechon u'v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi Shemei Rabbah Mevarach Le'alam Ulalmei Almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal Shemei Dekudsha B'richu Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabbah min Shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh Shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh Shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru. Amen. May God send peace to all who mourn and comfort those who are bereaved and those who remember on this night. And we say, Amen. Please be seated. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. In a few moments, I'm going to offer the last shofar sounds for this year. The next shofar sound you will hear after tonight will be in the new year. So we have blown the shofar whenever we gather during the month of Elul. So I'm going to offer these sounds tonight for us all. Again, the sound of the shofar reminds us that this is the season when we will be gathering now in community for the next week or 10 days or 2 weeks to make sure that we have a chance to gather with one another. Those who are with us online will be gathering with us in spirit, and we'll have a congregation of God knows how many people, thankfully, filling up the chairs as best as possible. One of the things that we do request is that people give everyone the space to observe these days in the way that they can. Masked, unmasked, present, online. Each of us is dealing with the after effects or the continuing effects of the pandemic, and so we want to be sure that everyone is respecting the choices that everyone else makes. During High Holy Day services, we have made certain accommodations here in our sanctuary and in the pattern of worship to reflect, trying to respect everybody's space and not bringing people into contact too much if we can avoid that. So we hope that you are patient with us as we worship in a few unique ways. They won't be painful ways. They'll just be perhaps a little bit different than before COVID, but I'm sure you'll understand, and I'm sure everybody will go with the flow. First of all, in a few moments when our service concludes, we have the opportunity to enjoy a wonderful Oneg Shabbat sponsored by the Temple Bethel Women of Reformed Judaism, our sisterhood. That'll be out in the Weinstein Community Court. Please join us. If you'd like to just take a cookie to go, we have big cookies from Just Bakery, our partner in this community, serving the needs both of our hunger, but also, more importantly, the needs of people who are leaving prison and trying to make a go in life as people back in society. So we are grateful for their help tonight as well, and we're very happy to be able to be supporting them. A few COVID announcements. Temple Bethel strongly encourages the wearing of masks in the building for all worship events and meetings. Vaccinations and boosters are strongly recommended for everyone 6 months and up who is eligible, and especially the boosters for the next round of the Omicron variant, which has now been approved by the CDC and the FDA. By the way, if you test positive for COVID-19 within 5 days after being here in Temple, we would really appreciate knowing about that. Please contact our executive director. And if we find out that someone here tonight has tested positive, then we will let people here know if you've signed our contact tracing sheet. That's on the table outside in the round table in the foyer. So please, if you'd like to be part of that contact list, if, God forbid, someone is diagnosed here, or I should say tests positive for COVID, we will let you know. A few upcoming events. First of all, there's a big thing happening tomorrow morning, and that is Torah study at 9 o'clock in the morning, both present in room 110, which is far down the end of that hallway in that direction. It's also online on Zoom, and you can participate either way. Please join us. Tomorrow morning's Torah study is being led by Steve Olson. Rosh Hashanah begins Sunday evening, as if you didn't know that. I think we are very much aware of that. We're all ready to go. You see the machzorim are lining the hallways over here. The bima is set for choir, for clergy, for back in the more congregational style. So again, we are looking forward to a beautiful Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur holiday with Sukkot and Simchat Torah. Please refer to the program you have in your hands, or if you have it online, for the start times and for the gathering times of all of those services. We do ask that for planning purposes, if you haven't made a reservation, or let us know, I shouldn't say reservation, because there are no reservations per se, but if you have time to let us know that you're coming on one of those nights, it just helps us with planning to ensure that we have good capacity here. We anticipate we will. So please let us know. Right now, we're about, at the most, I think, like a 2/3 capacity.
Something along those lines.
Like that. So that's great. So people can stretch out a little bit, space out a little bit, and still enjoy worship, whether you're here in our sanctuary or joining us online. But if you want to register, please go to our website. Go to www.tbemadison.org/HHD High Holy Days 5783 to register for these holy days. Also, on the back of the program, or somewhere in the program, I can't say the back anymore, but somewhere in the program, there are a couple of important announcements. First is our trivia night on Saturday evening, November 5th, beginning at 6:30. Second is our congregational journey and adventure to Israel, which will be departing next June 12th. We will have information out. You'll see a banner out here in the foyer. There's a website already set up. You can learn more. And we have a couple of congregational information nights, October 20th and October 23rd. Details you can ask the cantor or me after services. Both the cantor and I are leading that trip together. And so we are looking forward to having a good turnout. Thank you all for reading all of that. There's a lot going on in our community. Does anyone have any announcement that they would like to make about anything else that might be happening? Going once, going twice. We then want to conclude our service. Cantor.
We'll turn to page 625 for a melody for Adon Olam, something that hopefully will be a little bit gentle and uplifting us into this new year. This is a melody that some people may know by Abraham Lopez Cardozo, who was the cantor at the Spanish-Portuguese synagogue in Amsterdam, and then subsequently at the Spanish-Portuguese synagogue in New York. We'll start it with no words, just to kind of get the melody in our bones for those who need to get acquainted. Ya lai 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 lai, ya lai 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 lai, ya lai 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 lai, ya la 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 la, ya lai lai lai. Adon Olam, Adon Olam, Asher Malach, בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעד נשא בחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא. ואחרי ככלות הכל, לבדו ימלוך נורא, והוא היה והוא הווה, והוא יהיה בתפארה. והוא אחד ואין שני, להמשיל לו להכבירה, בלי ראשית בלי תכלית, ולא העוז והמסחר. והוא אלי וחי גואלי, וצור חבלי בעת צרה, והוא ניסי ומנוס לי, ונת כוסי ביום אקרא. בידו אפקיר רוחי, ואת אישן והעירה, ואם רוחי גוויעתי, אדוני לי ולא אירא. יאללה, יאללה,
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.